Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Seafarer Social Podcast. Today I'm here with Rebecca, Taylor-Neale, and Rebecca and I have known each other for a while now. We've done some cool campaigns together. We're working together. She is an ambassador at Seafarer Social. We did a very short digital interview together when we first started working together a few months back, but I thought it'd be better to do something in person where we can learn a little bit more about your background, because Rebecca is a very interesting character. She's harnessed about 120,000 followers on Instagram, and that's incredibly niche in the UK. There's not very many seafarers in the UK that can say they've developed that kind of follower base. So I'm really interested to learn more about how this happened. But I guess the best place to start was, why did you consider a career in maritime?
So the career in maritime started on a whim, really. Like I went to uni first and did fashion, which, you know, when you're at school and they're really pushing university on you, and you have like nothing. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I wasn't ever very academic. I was rubbish at maths. English, I could speak English, but I wasn't very good at writing. I just wasn't very academic. So for me, I was always a very creative person, which kind of brings me onto the social media stuff, because that uses a lot of like creativity. But I was very good at art, so I just pursued that, and I went to uni. Studied in Brighton, did a year. I absolutely hated it, absolutely hated it. And the thing I was good at, other than art at school, was sailing, but like dinghy sailing. And I had trained and become a sailing instructor. I was a sailing, windsurf and powerboat instructor. So I left uni after year one, and I went out to Greece, and I taught sailing out there. And this story does have it all links. Taught sailing out there, and it was great. I literally loved what I did. It was so fun. So I jumped from season to season and doing that. And then when I was 22, my mum sat me down, and this is no disrespect to anyone that does seasons. I loved what I did. But she said, is it time to get a real job? And I just said, what is a real job now?
Yeah.
Because real job, what is that?
Yeah.
Like what they used to think was a real job. It's very much not what it is now. You could do anything now and get paid for it. So yeah, I looked into the Merchant Navy, but it was very much a friend of mine had done it but never actually qualified. He didn't get through his final exam, unfortunately, and then went back to teaching sailing. And he just said to me, I spoke to him a little bit, and he said, Rebecca, I think you'd love it. And I honestly, I didn't know what it was. I was so naive. So I sent an application to Warsash, and this was in the September, no it wasn't, it was in the October of 2018, late October, after I got back from a season. And then just 1 week later, I think it was, I went down for an interview, it was in Southampton. They had the interview process, and on the train back up to Essex, where I was living at the time with my family, I got you're joining, and by January I started.
Wow.
So it was that quick, I didn't even think about it. And then suddenly, 4 months after, because I was on the HND route, so you do 4 months at college, and then you're thrown into your first sea phase. So suddenly, after 4 months of literally learning what port and starboard was, I did have a rough idea. I was a sailor before, so I had a rough idea. But then suddenly you're at sea, and I found myself in a ballast tank doing inspections on day one.
Yeah. And
I was like, I had one of those moments where I thought, what am I doing? I was crawling through these tiny gaps where you're trying to get in there on day one. So it was just bonkers. But yeah, that was how it started. So it was, I would say, a bit of a fluke, but a good fluke. And it was thought out, but at the same time, it really wasn't. I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And as we know, there's nothing online about the Merchant Navy.
Yeah, I know.
Well, there's more now, but there wasn't then.
Still not enough, but yeah. So where did the love for the sea come from? What inspired you to start sailing? How old were you when you first started sailing?
Really, really, really young.
Yeah.
My dad put me on a little optimist. You know what they are?
Yeah, I do know what optimist is.
It looks like a bathtub.
Yeah.
So I was in one of those. I think I was probably 2 years old. I had one of those baby life jackets, and my family, very luckily, we had small sailing yachts. When I say yachts, really small, and 27 footers type thing. And I was in going back again, I was in a baby car carrier in a life jacket being put on and off boats. My whole family sailed from a really young age, but like dinghy sailing, dinghy and small yacht sailing. So I think my love for the sea started really, really young. But saying that, I did used to, when I was really little, hate it. My dad, when he put me in this Optimist, I remember it, he pushed me out from the beach, and it was me and my friend Ollie Middleton, who I'm still friends with now, and he works in Formula One, so really cool job. And we were in this little bathtub together, screaming. Like, we were so scared, and I was like, I'm not going in that ever again. But I think I was 5 years old, maybe.
Yeah. And
my dad literally just pushed us out and was like, good luck. We were so little. But yeah, so it just like spiraled from there, and I used to like compete sailing and things like that, and like I said, taught adults, kids, and I've taught all over the world sailing and windsurfing, so I really had a love for it, but I loved it in that capacity. I didn't know that I could make that into a career. I knew that I loved the water, but I didn't know how to make it a career. My mum actually, when she told me about getting this proper job, she said, have you ever thought about piloting? And I thought, I don't even know really what that is. Yeah. I knew that you needed pilots to bring ships into ports around the world, like professionals that knew the waterways like they do, but I didn't realise that was something I could do. So yeah, I looked into it, and that was it.
How was your parents' reaction when you first told them that you'd obviously bagged this contract and you were going to work as a merchant Navy seafarer?
Yeah, really, really supportive. They've always been really supportive of like anything I do. And when I was doing seasons, I was earning £300 a month, so they had to be supportive because I had nothing else. They were really supportive, but I don't think they knew either really what it was until I think the turning point for them when they thought, oh God, like this is a real job, like proper. It's quite serious. Is I got sent my uniform. Warsash used to send you your SM Bass. It was the uniform providers that we used to use. They've closed down now, I think, but we were using them, and I had just received all my uniform, and this must have been early January because I started January 19th of January 2019. I started at Warsash, and so I came into the living room at my home place in Essex, and I had all my uniform on. I mean, this skirt was so big it like came down to the middle of my legs, and I looked awful. But I think then my mum was like, "Oh God,
Yeah, sure.
That's something."
Yeah.
But I think for them, the real turning. I mean, they've seen me studying and putting all the effort in. I cried the whole way through phase 5. But the last phase was so difficult, so stressful, and the pressure on exams, like it's a lot. So they've seen me go through all this stress, and they know how much it means to me. But I think the real moment for them was when they came on the first ship I worked on qualified. So my first job was the Condor Liberation out of Poole.
Nice.
So I think it's changed hands now. I think it's run by DFDS, or they've just taken Condor over. But we were doing the fast ferry route, Poole to like Guernsey, Jersey and back. I loved it. It was such a good job. But they came on for a 2-day trip to Guernsey.
Oh wow!
And they came up to the bridge and they saw me working.
Amazing.
And they were just like so proud.
Yeah.
And I was so proud to have them there. And for me also, I was like, this, I've made it.
Yeah.
If I never do anything else, I've made it.
That's so cool.
Their faces were just like, it was great. Really good moment.
So tell us through the journey of your career so far to where you are now, because you've been on lots of different vessel types at this point.
Yeah.
What? So you said you were on ferries to begin with. What was the first? How long have you been sailing for as a seafarer? And what's your journey been through climbing through the ranks?
Okay, so since qualifying, I started as a second officer, so I think I got quite lucky. My first job was second.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I was second officer on, like I said, the fast ferry out of Poole, which was run by Condor. And then I went on to Royal Caribbean. So that was a 2-month temp gig. So normally that ship operates with just a captain and a chief mate on the bridge, but they needed a few extra hands just to help for the summer. So they employed me and one of my friends, Ellen, actually, we were back to back with each other. 1 week on, 1 week off.
Yeah.
Perfect. Travelled from Southampton. It was really good. Great job. Then I left there after the summer season kind of came to an end, and I went to Royal Caribbean, which I thought was my dream job. And in many ways, it's a great company, but for me, it just wasn't. It didn't tick all my boxes. There was things that I really was very unhappy.
Okay.
So I left there after 8 weeks. I handed my notice in, which I think is I think maybe we'll come back to it, but I was just going to say briefly that I think people get in this industry, I've seen it happen time and time and time again, people get a little bit stuck in the same job at the same rank.
Yeah.
And they are almost like a bit afraid to resign and try something new on a different company, because I think you can become quite familiar with the same ship and the same people and the same routines, that maybe it's quite difficult to take that like leap to change.
Yeah, well, that's just humans though.
Yeah,
Humans do that.
I think in general, but it's yeah, I am generalising, but I saw it happen a lot on Royal. You know, there was people that were very unhappy, but they weren't changing. But anyway, so I left there after 8 weeks, like I said, handed my notice in, resigned 3 days later, and I went 1 month after that. I already had a job lined up at HX, so HX Hurtigruten Expedition, which is it's a Norwegian flagged company, and yeah, so then I went there, and that's Expedition Cruise Ships, and I've been there ever since. I was on a ship called MS Maud for my first 2 years, yeah, and then I have just started on MS Fridtjof Nansen, which is their like biggest, newest ship. So she's 140 meters. So she's still small when it comes to the cruise industry.
Yeah.
She's very small, but we have to be. Like we sail to Antarctica, Greenland, Iceland. So we're very like specialist in that sense. But yeah, it's great. I love it. So and rank wise, yeah. So I started as second there. So I was second at Royal, second at Condor, second at Royal, second at HX Hurtigruten, and then I got promoted after 6 months to first officer. So yeah, first officer navigation now.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, and then like most recently, I've just done my Chief Mates Unlimited exams, and which is your master's 3,000 gross tons. So yeah, that's probably my proudest moment so far. Passing that exam was, yeah.
Yeah, I bet.
Can't even explain what that feels like.
I've heard a lot of seafarers, especially in the UK, say that some of the best employers are the Nordic employers, for sure.
Goodness,
like
yeah.
that's where people really want to work.
Yeah.
Have you got any tips how to, or was it a luck thing, or what?
How to work with the Norwegians?
Well, how to get in?
No. If I'm honest, no. Like, being completely transparent, I got not offered the job through Instagram. That's not right. But I was found on Instagram.
Okay.
One of the captains had, I think, seen my kind of profile and seen that I was working at Royal Caribbean, and I really believe everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
I was so, like I said, I wasn't very happy there, and I think that you could tell online. I'm not very good at faking it, and I think you could tell online a little bit that I wasn't posting as much as I normally did. I just wasn't very happy. I think my social media kind of portrayed that a little bit. And I think he just saw it, and he just sent me a message and said, I didn't know he was the captain though at the time, and he said, have you ever thought about coming over to Hurtigruten? And I honestly had no idea what the company was, so it just wasn't advertised at all. It wasn't like Royal Caribbean or Carnival UK that are huge companies. Sure. It was really small. We've only got like a few ships, so I just like Googled the company. And I interviewed like everyone else, so I didn't like skip a process because I was found online. But my initial in was through social media, for sure.
Which is totally cool. I mean,
yeah.
And actually, that leads us quite nicely to the next part, which is Instagram. You know, when did you decide I'm going to start filming being at sea?
Yeah.
And what was your first video?
Oh god. Okay, so the first one that really stands out that went like viral, I mean it got 7.8 million views on TikTok, which is just mental. Yeah. When I think of how many people can fit in Wembley Stadium, and then I think 7.8 million people viewed my video, and it was while I was a cadet, and it was on a buoy tender Trinity House ship. No, it wasn't. It was on the Northern Lighthouse vessel, which is very similar to the Trinity House ships, but just up in Scotland. And it was of a buoy being cleaned and moved around the deck and then put back in the water. And it just went viral. And
why?
I think it was quite satisfying to watch. I mean, it was satisfying.
Yeah, sure.
I made it. I mean, there was people like reposting it, pretending it was theirs. And I was like,
wow.
You know, it was massive. So that pushed my TikTok following. So I think I've got about 30,000 on there quite quickly. But Instagram, I think, well, that kind of coincides with it, but goes hand in hand. But I think what happened was I just started posting my life on board, and it wasn't any. I didn't think, oh, I want to gain a following.
Yeah, sure.
I want to have a large social media. That was never a thought process. I just took a lot of photos, and I just had nowhere to put them. So I just started documenting like day by day, and I kind of had a rule to myself that every other day I would post, and I did. I posted every other day for 3 years.
Oh wow, Jesus, that consistent?
That consistent, yeah. Every other day.
As a story or as an actual post?
As a post, every other day.
Wow,
yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So I think in my first, it really took off in my phase 3 at sea. So you do phase 1 at college, phase 2 at sea, phase 3 at college. Oh no, sorry, phase 4 at sea, it's phase 4. And then phase 5 at college, you do your exams and you qualify. So it's phase 4 that it really took off. And it kind of went from, I think, in phase 3, when I was at college, I had 650 followers, I think. And by the end of phase 4, so we're talking not even a year later, 6 months later maybe, I had over 10,000.
Wow.
So it just took off like that. And then I think people were invested then. I was just about to qualify. I was just about to go back to college for my last college phase and do my final exams. And in a way, this is kind of funny to say, but in a way, my following and like community that I've built online pushed me harder to pass. I had that like incentive myself. Obviously, I'm a very driven person, but it definitely did, because I knew that they're watching me.
Who are they? What is the demographic of people that follow you? Is it seafarers?
Yeah, mostly seafarers, but it's a real mixture. Like the age range is it ranges between the age of 25 and 35. That's like the total, like the biggest kind of area of like the age group that follow me. It is mostly men. Yeah.
What nationalities?
A lot of British, actually, which is surprising. British, American are my top 2 nationalities, and then just everything else is very much on a level playing field. But I don't watch stuff like that really. I don't look at my analytics so much.
It's interesting to know who's watching, right, and why they're watching.
Yeah.
Of course, you can't assume that every single person that's following is following for reasons that they may be interested in. Like, maybe they're just interested in you. Yeah. But nevertheless, there are some in there who might watch that and go, "Oh, actually, I don't." Because I think one of the problems that we have with young people nowadays, regardless of what country they're from, is you can very easily live in a world, and it nearly happened to you. I don't know what I want to do with my life.
Yeah.
I don't know what I want to do with my life, and sometimes the smallest thing, like watching a reel. Yeah. Might just flick something in someone's head and go, actually, that's a possibility.
Yeah. That is the fact that I could do that to just one person, young person, old person, whoever, whatever age, and they suddenly go, oh, actually, I will take up a career in the Merchant Navy. That is amazing. I was out in Southampton, just out with a few friends a couple of months ago when I was back studying for my chief officer's licence, and a gentleman came up to me in the bar, and I didn't know who he was, never met him before, and he said to me, "Oh, you're Rebecca," and I was like, "Yeah," and he introduced himself, and he said, "I spoke to you, sent a few messages to you a couple of years ago, and you convinced me to do this." And I was like, "Oh," I couldn't remember exactly, but I was like, "Oh my God!" Like the fact that he remembered meant so much, and the fact that he came up and told me that, I have not forgotten. And now I know exactly who he is, and I've seen him in college since, and I've gone up to him and asked him how it's going and things like that, and he came and met me, and we had a coffee in the local Starbucks and just chatted things through. And
amazing.
He spoke to me about how he wants to get into the expedition industry, and it was just so amazing. But the initial messages I couldn't remember, but the fact that, I don't know, it was really special.
Why do you think the country doesn't do enough to promote these careers?
The country.
Well, I think it's a government thing. I think the government should be, because we are an island, and historically we were a big maritime country. We still somewhat are. Yeah. I know that obviously the labour market has moved to the Far East because it's cheaper. Let's face it, that's the fact. But there's still a lot of opportunities out there for British seafarers.
I think also it's.
But they don't know about it.
No, they don't know about it, and. I didn't know about it when I started. Like I said, I had no idea what I was doing, and suddenly I found myself in a ballast tank. Like, it was just bizarre. But I I'm really not sure. I think that, you know, this whole like influencer thing has taken off massively in terms of like makeup and all of that stuff. Like there's a lot of male influencers doing all sorts of things, clothing lines, and that's all amazing. But there isn't enough influence on like the seafaring influencers.
Well, niche careers.
Niche careers. You're right. Like there must be people. I mean, I follow people that are like kind of got a large following in the airline industry.
Yeah, really big.
Yeah, really, really big. And I'm friends with one of them. I speak with online friends that we speak. You know, she's lovely. Called Rebecca actually. But there's you know, people in the army as well that have quite a large following. And why are those accounts not pushed?
Yeah.
Because that's how you reach people.
There's even trucker influencers, like people that work in trucks every day.
Yeah.
And they film it, they vlog it, they get huge follower bases, and then kids watch it and go, I want to do this.
Well, I think you know, like young children, they really want to be an influencer.
Yeah.
An influencer can be anyone that is influencing anything.
Yeah.
It's not just
makeup or fashion for sure.
Which, I mean, I'm a sucker for it. I am influenced all the time.
We all are.
Yeah, but I just think it could be pushed in other ways. But in terms of why the government's not doing it, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think that they should do more. And I know that Merchant Navy Welfare Board and things like that do stuff, but I think that there needs to be way more out there that the industry does, that the government do to let young people know about this, especially in coastal towns like Southampton and Portsmouth.
For sure. And I mean, the amount of people that I meet and they say, oh, what do you do? And I say, oh, I drive a cruise ship. And they're like, what?
Yeah.
Like, it's just bonkers to people, especially the fact that I'm a female doing it. I mean, that is really bonkers. Very strangely, I met a young, just a little bit younger than me, middle-aged 20s, the other day, and she works on a super yacht, and she's cabin stewardess, and you know, loves her job, does very well in her industry. And she said, oh, what do you do? And I said, oh, I drive a cruise ship. And she honestly was shocked, like she couldn't believe it. And I think that just shows like it's not pushed enough.
Yeah.
Like, that our industry at all, but let alone obviously women doing it. But it's just it's really not pushed enough. Her face dropped.
But I think the super yacht world's okay because they get so much media and marketing because it's luxury. It's like, and actually, to be honest, most of the people I know that work in the super yachting say it's actually not what you see on camera.
No, I mean, I've got a lot of friends in the super industry, and it's definitely not what you see on camera, and it's not, you know.
And they say it's well. They say it's well paid. It is well paid, but if you divide the salary they get, the tips are great, but if you divide the salary they get by the actual amount of hours they work,
oh, I know.
It's like, you know, there's no such thing as rotation on super yachts.
It's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
It is a lifestyle, and that's what I'm very big on, the fact that my job is my job. What's the saying? I work so I can live.
Yeah.
And I do love what I do. Like, let's not get that wrong. I love what I do. I'm very proud of what I do and where I've got to in my career so far, and I can't wait for the next 5 years. But I definitely work so I can live while I'm home.
Sure.
And I'm very big on keeping it that way. I don't want to switch to the other way where I'm suddenly, you know, living so I can work. Is that the right saying?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so it's I'm very big on that.
I think that's a very important way that everyone should live their life. Yeah, for sure.
I think,
I agree.
I really do like the amount of my friends that I you know, we have this conversation a lot with my friends because a lot of them work on super yachts, and a lot of them are away for a lot of the year, and they're earning good money. They are, but what's the point in earning good money if you can't come home and, you know, put roots down somewhere and have people at home that you can come back to because you're always on board? Like, no, for me there has to be a balance, and you can find that in yachting, but it's harder to find.
I agree.
So for me, the balance is really key for your mental health too. Anyway, we won't go into it too much. But
Pause it there. I'm going to change the battery.
Okay.
Oh, actually, it's fine. It's still okay. Keep it going. Okay. I'll just edit that bit. So, I asked somebody this question the other day, and they really struggled to come for this. But I wonder if you can help. Who do you think is the perfect avatar? So say you had to list like the skills, the natural qualities of someone. to become a seafarer? What is it you like? Say for example, you had to draw up the perfect person for your job.
Yeah.
What skills should they have?
Before they start training?
Before they start training.
Okay, now that's a really good question. Resilience, 100%.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that comes into my mind. You need to be resilient, and resilient in more ways than you even think are possible, because the challenges that you face every day are so varied that you can't, there's no training for that.
Yeah.
Like there really isn't any training. You can have all the training in the world and it still won't prepare you for some of the things that you are faced with and the challenges that you're faced with every day at sea. The sea is a really unforgiving place, and so resilience for sure. You need to be caring, you need to be caring for the team. Like, I am really big on that. Like, I think that if I care for my team and everybody around me, that they will care for me. And it is a team. It's not like you're not trying to outrank each other. You are one big team. The whole ship is like that. So I'm very big on, when I'm walking around the ship, I say hello to people, and it can be a lonely place being at sea. So just being able to say hello, smiling, it can change someone's day, and it changes my day as well when they say hello back.
Yeah.
Or when someone says, "Oh, morning," and I'm morning. You know, it's just nice. So you need to be resilient, caring. What else do you need to be? You don't need to be like bright or clever, and I think that's quite a misconception, that people think that you need to, be really academic. Like I said, I really wasn't. But when you find something that you are passionate about, which I became passionate about it. I definitely wasn't when I first started. My first college phase, I didn't, fly through my exams, and I really built up to that point. But so you don't need to be really bright, but you need to be determined, and especially when it gets to like the end of your time at college, like just before you qualify, like if you can't give up, because the people that give up are the ones that don't end up qualifying. You need to be determined the whole way through, because it's not easy. It's really
Talk a little bit more about that. So for those that might be watching this and going, well, actually this does sound quite interesting, but I'm put off by the exams. I'm not academic. I don't like studying. Tell us the realities of that studying process. Like, how much time and effort have you put into it?
Yeah. How
difficult was it?
I can't lie to you. I was doing like 10 hours a day.
Really?
But yeah. The last 5 months, this is my chief officer's license, so it's a step up. But I am not kidding, 10 hours a day, every day. I think I had Christmas Day off, and I had 2 days after that, and I went back studying on the 28th of December. I was ruthless the whole way through, and I didn't pass the stability. Second time round, still haven't passed it. So it's, I passed my oral exam, I passed my navigation SQA and all those exams, but I didn't pass, so I've still got to redo it again. So that's what I mean about resilience and determination, because I could have been like, oh, just give up. But what's the point? I've just done all of this. It's one last push, and hopefully I get it the third time round, third time lucky, but maybe I don't, and I have to go again. So it's tough. And it does, there has been moments, the last few months especially, since finding out that I failed stability for the second time, where I have thought, you know what, I'm just going to take a break, like a mental break, come back to it in a year. But it's more fresh in my mind now than it was before. So it's a mental battle with myself, every day.
Yeah.
And I do just want to slob out on the sofa or go and catch up with my friends that I haven't seen in a while. But you can't. You have to dedicate if this is what you want, you have to dedicate your time and effort to it. But I was just studying. Same when I was a cadet, I would study probably a little bit too much. My friends would say that I was borderline boring. I was. I did become a hermit the last kind of 5-6 months of phase 5 before my final exam, before I qualified with my license. I didn't really go out, I just studied. But I passed first time, and I passed quickly as well. I passed pretty early on in the when people started to pass. So,
but break that studying down even further, because for some people, they might not have gone to university, so they might not have ever studied before. What does those 10 hours a day look like? Are you quite literally sat at a desk with paper?
No, I can't do that.
How did you study?
So for me, the main thing for me, this has nothing to do with studying, but I have to go to the gym. I have to do some sort of physical exercise. I'm not
before
saying,
or after?
Before.
Okay.
I'm a morning gymmer. So I'm up, breakfast, gym, and I start studying around 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning, have a cup of tea, cup of coffee, whatever it is, and I start studying, and I will study for about 2 hours, and then I have lunch, eggs on toast, normally a bit of avo, that's normally what I do, and I'm a creature of habit, I do it every day, and then I will eat my lunch, and I'll put on like a YouTube video for 20 minutes. Just someone that I like watching on YouTube. I'm like obsessed with YouTube. I have so many influencers that I watch, makeup influencers, so I watch them, and then I start studying again, and I'll study from about 1-2 o'clock in the afternoon until about 6.
Okay.
And when my oral exam for like my chief mates or my officer of the watch was coming up, I would have like sessions in that where I was on Zoom calls or Teams calls with other people, and we'd be questioning each other.
Nice.
My main tip for oral is start speaking super early before your exam, because if you don't, you're going to really struggle in that exam, because it is a speaking exam. If that's what the exam is. So if you don't start speaking your answers out loud, like someone can be really good at writing their answers down, it's not going to help you when it comes to an oral exam. So you have to start speaking early. And even if you feel like I don't know anything, which I did, I was doing sessions with White Horse Maritime. Have you heard of them?
Yeah.
Really great, expensive. They're really expensive, but they're good. They are good. And I booked in a couple of sessions with them, both for my officer of the watch and chief mates. I only did like 1 or 2 sessions with them at officer of the watch level. I was more just studying with a friend. If you can get a study buddy, that is really, really helpful. Not someone that you do it in person with, because I think you become more distracted, but someone where I had another guy that had his exam around the same time as me for my chief mates, and I had another female that had her exam around the same time as me for my officer of the watch, and we became study buddies where we had scheduled sessions. So we said,
like Zoom sessions?
So we said 9 till 10 every morning, we are going to jump on a session and we're going to just question each other on coal regs. And that's what we did.
That's such a cool idea.
And then 2 p.m. till 4 p.m. we jumped on a session and we went over GMDSS, or the next day we went over stability. Like we had different topics that we'd do, and we'd like really circle back, and then we'd look through past reports and pick out ones that were like reoccurring. That's what questions are really coming up, what are the MCA loving at the moment, let's focus in on those and like just do those questions. Write out model answers, learn them, it's a lot, but I was doing 10 hours a day.
Wow, that is intense.
When I went back to work this last time, having just had 5 months off for study leave, my I think it was my staff captain, so chief officer staff captain, he said to me, how was your leave? And honestly I was like, you have no idea. And he's Norwegian, so he doesn't have to go back to school and do like chief mate exams.
Oh, I see.
It's a different system. Like the Norwegians are great, like really, I mean all the Norwegians I work with, wow, like ship handlers, like the best ship handlers I've ever seen, ever. Like you're just phenomenal at driving ships, and their knowledge is unbelievable, but it comes from experience, their knowledge, not through exams.
I see.
They don't go back to school like we do, the Brits.
This is just the British thing.
Oh yeah, and I can't say I fully agree with it either. Like not having worked with Norwegians and Scandinavians.
Yeah, sure.
I don't think it makes you a better officer. I think it makes you a parrot.
Wow.
But being brutal.
That's a big statement. That might be the title of this podcast.
No, but I really do. I do. Like things like learning how to use a sextant again.
Yeah.
You don't even require sextants on board anymore.
Yeah.
It's ancient.
No, I've heard many a young seafarer say this.
It's so ancient. It's so outdated.
Yeah.
But yet we still have to learn it. And I mean, I do know it, but it's bonkers in my mind. Anyway, so I work with these Norwegians, and like I said, my staff captain, how was your leave? And I was like, we're not going there. It was, I went on board and it was like having a break from 5 months of hardcore studying.
Going back to the avatar question, another thing is, this job does require you to spend long periods of time away from home. How has that been for you? I know you don't have necessarily children or anything. I don't know about your love life, but
we won't go into it.
Okay. But how have you found the concept of like leaving? Do you dread that period when you eventually have to go?
Back to work or come home?
Well, leave as in to go to your vessel. Yeah. Is it quite a tough transition?
It can be, yeah. I think once you're in a route, I mean, when I was working on MS Mod, so my first job at HX, Hoodgruden, the ship I was on for 2 years, I was working 4 weeks on, 4 weeks off. That's not enough time in your leave to kind of really settle into your leave.
Yeah.
So in a way, that's a blessing in disguise, because you kind of come home, you do all your appointments, you see everyone you need to see, you know, catch up people, catch up on sleep, and then you go back to work. Whereas now, where I'm doing 2 months on, 2 months off, or going back to work after my study leave, that was a hard adjustment. And like I said, I'd gone from 5 months of working 10 hours a day, studying. I'd had a really big high moment, passing my oral exam for, you know, chief mate's unlimited exam. And 2 days later, literally I had 1 full day after that. And then I flew to Buenos Aires the day after, passed on the 4th of March, flew to work on the 6th of March. And I don't believe that was long enough to really kind of decompress and get ready for work. You come from like high stress to almost another high stress, because I'd gone onto a new ship that I didn't know anybody. I was flying to Antarctica. I'd never sailed in Antarctica before, so it was a lot. It was a lot, and so that was a hard adjustment. But I think once you're in like a normal routine, your body and your mind and everything else kind of knows that the time is coming to go back to work. And I don't dread it, because I love what I do, but it's an adjustment each time, and you do miss things like birthdays, funerals, weddings, christenings, like your niece and nephews being born. Like, you do miss things like that, and that is sad. And there will always be that one thing that you wish that, you know, there's always something booked. This is what I find. There's always something the week you go back.
Yeah, sure.
Or 2 days after you've gone back.
Yeah.
There's always something, like something with your friends, something with your family that you'll miss. And you do end up, I always kind of think, if I was just going back 2 days later, but I've just had 2 months off.
Yeah.
Like earned leave, let's just, you know, it isn't my earned leave, but it's, that's just the way it is.
Is it difficult? Is it difficult to date when you're a seafarer? Is it?
Yeah.
Is it difficult to date someone who's not a seafarer, who can understand?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I think that this is a difficult one. So if you date a seafarer, there's obviously the positive that they understand the industry. But then you've got the problem of, do you date someone on your own ship? You know, we all know that saying, I won't say because it's quite rude, but like, you know, then that's quite difficult. If you date someone in the industry, you have the positive that they're in the industry, they understand the...
Yeah.
Then you've got the thing if they're on the same ship, and that in itself could cause problems. It can cause problems, I would say, or it might not. I don't know. But that in itself, like you're working together and you're living together, I don't know. Yeah, and then you've got if they're on a different ship, does your rotation match? You know, I could be off and they could go back to work, so then you never see them. So that's not a relationship either. So that's difficult. So you've got to match rotations. Then it's me speaking to, I mean, maybe it's the same company.
Yeah.
Maybe they know you're dating and they match your rotations. That's like ideal situation. Maybe that's...
Some employers would do that, you think?
Oh yeah, Carnival UK do that.
Oh wow.
I know that they do that. So that's really good.
Yeah.
I mean, if they stick to it. But we're in shipping. We know that there might be the reason that one of you has to go back early, or stuff changes. I mean, things change like that in shipping. You could think you can go... think you're going somewhere, and then at the drop of a pin you're going somewhere else, and you know, so that's just that's what I say about you need to be, that's the other thing, and my avatar, adaptable.
Yeah, adaptable.
Yeah.
What if you're not dating a seafarer?
Right, so then you've got the issue of they don't understand the industry, and they may say to you probably meet them when you're home. Realistically, that's probably when you meet them, or you've met them online and you've told them you're a seafarer, and they're like, they give you the whole... I've had it before, you can tell I'm speaking from experience. They give you the whole, I'd be fine. But will they? Will they really be fine?
Yeah.
You go away for 2 months, and they say, 2 months isn't that long. But it's not that long when you're on board, when you're at home and your partner, you know, male or female, is here with you. But it is a long time when you're away from them and they don't necessarily know. They don't... Yeah, but I don't know. I think it's a difficult one. It's hard. Dating in this industry is really hard.
What would your recommendations be for those who are trying to maintain a relationship with... Communication?
That's the other thing as well. Like, communication at sea is really, really difficult. If you don't... I mean, I could have no internet one day, or the job comes first ultimately when you're at sea. So maybe I'm like called to the bridge, or there's something else that I have to attend to, and I've opened a message on my phone, I've gone to reply, and something's come up and they don't reply, you left them on red, and then suddenly it's like, oh, why have you not replied? Oh, yeah, I was avoiding an iceberg. They don't understand. They don't understand that. They're like, what?
Can you otherwise most days like text casually throughout the day?
I'm really lucky on my ship that I have we have very good internet for the crew. We don't have a crew bar or anything like that. So what my company do is give you free unlimited internet, which is unheard of in the cruise industry. When I was at Royal, we had to pay something like, I think I was paying £25.
Yeah, I've heard this.
And it was like 3 gig or something. Maybe I've got that wrong, but it was something. It wasn't much. You know, you could send a text on WhatsApp, and also if you left it on overnight, which I did the first week I started, if you left it, it rinses it all, and then suddenly it's all gone by the time you've woken up, and all you've done is send one WhatsApp to your mum saying that you've landed all right, and it's £25 gone. It's that's crazy to me. But they do have all these other things like crew bar and things like this, which Hood Gooden don't have. So, but then I think it's a good thing we don't have alcohol on board. But that's a whole nother topic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I do. I think it's a good thing. But maybe I'm like a bit, I don't know. I just think that alcohol does not achieve anything good in the maritime industry.
It sounds like you're speaking from experience there as well.
Well, kind of. But I just think it's, I think on the cruise ships, it can be that when there is alcohol involved, I think it's quite difficult to know when there's that, they say to your officers can drink, and you have to stop drinking 4 hours before you watch, and you have to be under the drink drive limit when you go on duty. Fair enough, like completely understandable. Yeah. You know, you're driving a lot of people around, and you've got a huge responsibility, so I totally get it. But then how do you know if you're under, you know, what could be under the limit? Sure. What could be like my limit is very different to your limit. Yeah. So I just think that's quite difficult to know. And so the only answer to that is, in my mind, is don't drink. Yeah. So when I was at Royal, I didn't drink until the minute I handed in my resignation. Then I went straight to the bar. You know, like I don't see the point in. It's hard. It's a hard line to know where to balance it. So I think that on container ships, you know, for the crew that are on board for 6 months a year, I think that's different. I think that's quite different. Yeah, sure. Because being on board a ship where there's only 30 other people, you're on board for a really long time, you're away from home, you know, all the other things that come with that, you're missing all these important events. Like, but you know, most of them all have no drinking policies as well, right? Yeah, I know. But like sometimes I think they're allowed a glass of wine with dinner or something. Yeah, but I mean, even so, that's kind of nice, right? Yeah. But I just think that is... They're the good ones, that's the good ones. Yeah, I think they should be allowed alcohol. But I think there's always it has to be different for the officers on the bridge. Yeah. I agree. And unfortunately, I know that officers that are probably going to watch this and going to think, no, we should be allowed to drink too, but why, in my mind? You've chosen this career. Yeah. You know what comes with it. You know the responsibility that comes with it. I don't believe you should be allowed to drink, no. Yeah, I think it's a fair point. But also, to be honest, I think most young people are actually okay about not drinking nowadays. Yeah, I think it's the older generation that I think have like some sort of emotional attachment to it. Yeah, it's the older generation. How do I relax? How do I talk to people? Yeah, I think, and also how the industry was even 10 years ago, in terms of, you know, you could smoke in your cabins on container ships. Well, not just container ships, but on cargo, a lot of cargo, you could smoke in your cabins. You could drink and there wasn't really any like limits on it. Like maybe there was, that no one was checking, you know? And I think for now that there's more like rules and regulations, and the industry as a whole is a lot stricter on the alcohol and smoking as well on board. You know, it's all a lot. There was a smoke room on the first vessel I went on. Like, that's a smoke room. Like, that's crazy to me. Like, we don't, you know, you can't even smoke in some beer gardens outside. Yeah, that's true. But yeah, on a ship you could smoke in a room. Like, it was just bonkers. But anyway, still happens now. Actually, I know a lot of people that smoke indoors still on vessels. Yeah, there is still smoke rooms on vessels, but even that I think is outdated. But anyway, so I think they are those people that have worked on those ships and they've been in the industry for a long time. They struggle to change it. Yeah. But, what do you? So all these things we're talking about now: dating, drinking on board. You know, we've really swayed from topic. We have, but it's interesting developing that camaraderie of your teammates saying good morning. All of these things sort of interlink to the fact that this is a job where your life,
your work life and your leisure life are merged into one for a few months, and everything happens on one small little vessel, ultimately. A small, tiny little world where everything is just clamped into one. How is that? How does it feel when you go from being at home and you can get in your car, you can drive, you go see your parents, you can go to, for lunch, whatever, to then all of a sudden just everything coming into one small bubble?
Yeah, it's a strange thing to get used to. It's hard. It is hard. I do find that my first week back on board after being on leave, I feel a bit like a bit lost almost. You just kind of get into this routine of work, sleep, gym, eat, work, sleep, gym, eat, and it just repeats. However, whatever makes. I know that for me, like I said with studying, for me, going and doing some sort of physical exercise, whether it's walking around the deck outside or whatever it is, it massively helps me. Helps me focus. So I know that. So I make sure that I incorporate that into my work life too. And I think that things that I do at home every day, like little things, it's so silly, but like getting up and getting ready for the day, whatever that looks like for you, like having a shower, brushing your teeth, washing your hair, for me, putting a bit of makeup on, it just makes me have this more like normal life on board. And
interesting.
Like for me, that's really important that I keep that because it makes me. I'd be really, if I went on a ship and suddenly they said you can't wear makeup, I mean, fine. Like it's not like I rely on makeup, but for me, it's just like part of my morning routine.
Sure.
I like it. So, I've read some comments on Instagram before, why do you wear makeup? And that is why. Because it just makes
it's part of your routine.
It is, it's part of my routine. It's part of what makes me, like, my process, And same with the gym or going on a walk outside. It just, as soon as I get alongside anywhere, I try, if I can, just to step off the boat. Even if it's walking up and down the quayside, like maybe there's not enough time for me to go ashore, and often there isn't, I'm very busy, so I walk up and down the quay just looking at mooring lines.
Yeah, sure.
And it's just, there's things that just, I think, for me, trying to implement as much of my normal life while I'm on board, is really important.
I think that makes total sense. Last thing I want to talk to you about is being a woman at sea. This is a subject that a lot of people talk about. I know you've got some interesting perspectives on this area. I think the first thing that's important to address is it difficult being a woman at sea? Are there things that you've noticed in your career that whereby you've been treated differently because of your sex? Is there anything that you feel? Has anybody said anything to you that you've been like, actually, hang on a minute? Have you come up with any challenges based on your gender?
Yeah, for sure. There has been challenges. There's been challenges in, I'd say, every company. Every ship I've been to has had its own challenges in terms of women at sea. There has been challenges without going into like so many of them. But there has been. Does it like defy me, or do I let it bother me? No, not really. I think again I'm very resilient. I have like I don't really let it bother me. But in terms of my stance on women at sea, like I think it's incredibly important. Like a lot of women do, that we like empower each other, and I would love nothing more than to see the women in the industry as a whole, like the percentage of only 2% at the minute, grow. I want to see it grow. But like you said, my stance on it is very interesting, and I think what you mean by that is I just don't think that we should push it as much as we do. I think it's quite, I want to see it grow, and I don't want this to come across in the wrong way. Like I'm very all for women at sea, and I want to see more women in the industry, but I think we are very close to crossing that line between the invisible line where we make ourselves seem better than men. And we're not better than men, we are the same. We can do it the same as they can, but I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm as physically strong as a man if we train exactly the same. Like if we went to the gym exactly the same, they will be stronger than me. That is just biology. And I think it's wrong if someone's like, oh, I can be stronger than, that's just, I'm sorry, that's biology. So for me, I'm very aware of that there's things that men are very good at, and there's things that women are very good at. And I think on a ship or in any industry, I think you need both to make kind of like the cogs turn. And yeah.
You know, I spoke to a seafarer recently named Hannah, and she said to me something really interesting which got me thinking, and that was that one of the things she noticed is that when she was in the bridge on watch, the officers that she'd be with, sometimes the conversations that they had with her would be different to the conversations they had with their other officers. And it would be things like, you know, I've got this problem at home and I don't know who to talk to about it. And actually she found that a lot, and maybe it was based just upon her as an individual, but maybe it could also be about the fact that the man was more comfortable speaking to a woman about these things.
Yeah.
And when you look at things like suicide of men on board, suicide for men period, actually it's really important that men have women in their life that they can speak to, because there is like it's a motherly element where they feel that they can open up to a woman more than they can a man. And sometimes being at sea, when you're in a crew of just men, perhaps you're restraining yourself of having those conversations that you feel more comfortable speaking to a woman about. So actually having more women at sea and creating that essentially home family feeling could really, really balance out and solve a lot of issues with men as well.
Oh, I think Hannah has completely like hit the nail on the head with that one, in terms of like definitely when you talk about suicide in men, period, but in jobs at sea, it's huge. Yeah. And it's something that isn't spoken about enough at all. And yeah, like you say, I think women I think in general we have like quite a soft touch. Yeah. And I'm really generalising when I'm speaking here, but I've seen it, like men do come and they speak to me about like stuff in their home life and things like that. And talking about suicide in men, I mean, I've had 2 people my age sadly pass away due to suicide, both men, in the last like kind of 3-4 years. And it just kind of shows me even more so that like I want to be there. I want people to come and speak to me. I like when people come and chat to me on watch.
But one of the problems I've also found is that we live in a world now where if a man speaks to a woman, it instantly means he's trying to hit on them. Yeah. But actually, men having female friends is so important.
Oh my goodness.
So how do we get to a point where it's like actually but also it's also okay for them to sometimes in a respect it's very difficult, isn't it? It's like how do you get the balance of like, so there's a seafarer on board and then maybe there's 2 women, right, and they get along really well and it's completely a friend thing, but other people start talking, saying, oh, they're talking all the time, they must fancy each other, you're living in this bubble, so it gets intensified by the fact that you're living in a bubble. How do you kind of navigate those situations? Yeah,
but I mean, I've had it. It's hard. I mean, I would say I'm friends with everyone on board. Like, there are people that you like more than others. That's just life. Yeah. But we do, like, there are very good male friends of mine that people do probably think something's going on there or whatever. But I just have to be like, block out the haters. Like, I just don't. You have to just kind of think, they're always going to think, someone is always going to think that. Yeah. And honestly, it's more like, it's on them that they think that.
And also, especially like men that are married, men that are in long-term partnerships, they're actually used to having their partner to be able to speak to. So they get they get the ability to be vulnerable with a woman when they're at home. And then all of a sudden, going from living with a woman to then coming on board and having no women, or having one but you feel worried about whether or not you can speak to them because you don't want people to assume things. Yeah. I just think there needs to be more of, and actually I think that this is something that we've all gone back on. Yeah. I think once upon a time, it used to be very normalised that you could openly speak to a woman without there being suggestions, and if you did like them, you could tell them, and they could say, "I'm not interested."
Also saying the other way around.
Yeah, like, that's a good point.
This kind of circles back to, you asked me about what men are. We spoke about my kind of what it's like to date in this industry, and the biggest thing I've noticed that my friendship group is 90% men. And that is because of the jobs I've done. You know,
Yeah.
season air lifestyle, it's a lot of men in that industry, and then I've gone into this industry and it's, you know, a lot of men. And that's just who my friendship group are, and they are the best group of guys. Like my friends are the best people ever. They protect me, and they are just amazing. They're always there for each other, and it's just great. But I've met people shoreside when I've, like, you know, maybe started dating people or thought about dating people, and you know, you get on to talking about your friends, and I say, oh, you know, this friend and that friend, and they're all men.
Yeah.
And they've said to me before, I really had someone say to me, oh, that's a red flag that you've got so many male friends.
Yeah, sure.
Like, genuinely, he didn't want anything to do with me after that, because he knew, because he found out about my, found out, there's nothing to find out. He heard about my friendship group being men, mainly, and he just couldn't get over it. But then I just thought, and it really upset me, like it really did upset me, and I was thinking about this for a long time, and I thought, well, I'm not changing my friends, you know, my friends are my friends, and I'm sorry that you don't like that, but I had to kind of take this stance on it that, well, that's on you.
Yeah.
Like, that's on you that you like clearly have something that you're battling yourself, because it's not, like, it's very normal, and if my friends weren't men, I wouldn't have any friends.
Yeah, sure.
Because that's who I'm
working
with. So yeah, I just think that people need to just, like, people are friends with who they're friends with. It doesn't matter if they're male or female.
I agree.
They're just, you know.
Final question, and I guess, you know, I'm going to say women, but I guess this also opens up to anybody, is what suggestions would you have for an 18, 19-year-old girl that's watching this right now, 16-year-old girl, whatever, young girl who's watching this and is considering a career at sea? What recommendations would you have for them?
Do it. Just do it. Like, I said this in a recent Q&A that I did. It was single-handedly the best decision I ever made. Like, really, I mean that. I don't know what I would have done if I hadn't have gone to sea. I mean, I know I would have been fine because I'm that type of person.
Yeah.
But I just think that it's so good in so many ways, and to think now that, you know, someone says, oh, like, what is your skill set? Now you're a qualified officer. Well, I know how to fight fires. I am trained medically.
Yeah,
like, you've got your, I mean, that's kind of a weird saying. I don't like that saying, but I was gonna, you know, you're so diverse. Your skill set is huge. I mean, yes, I can navigate and I can drive a ship, but I can also do all these other things. And I wouldn't have got any of those skills had it not been for taking up this career and, pursuing this journey. And the people I've met, like, you know, there are a few people that make it difficult for women and have said things in the past, but, you know, like, they will get with the times eventually. But the 99% of other people I've met, male, female, in all departments, have been, like, so amazing. And I've got friends all over the world. You know, I went skiing in Norway with some of my friends, and it just, like, the opportunities you get from going into this industry are just so big. And yeah, it really has made me, like, what I thought was possible 5 years ago. If I think about where I'm at now, I wouldn't have been able to tell myself that. If someone had said to me 5 years ago, you know, you're going to be on a podcast with Carl talking about your following on Instagram, TikTok, having made it to first officer, just done your chief mate's license, you know, Masters 3000, I honestly would be like, you're lying. Like, you're actually lying.
Yeah.
It's bonkers, really. And that's just in 5 years, not even 6 years. Okay, it's more. But you know what I mean?
100%.
It's just crazy. So yeah, I would really say just go for it. And you get paid to study in the UK. So what have you got to lose? You're not going to have student debt. And
get paid very well as well. That's the other thing.
To study.
Well, maybe not to study, but the job itself. Is a very well-paid job, and tax-free quite often as well.
Yeah, it is. If you're
not always, but sometimes.
If you're outside the UK for more than half a year, and currently UK, like, rules and regulations, it's tax-free. Yeah, it's very good in that sense. But I mean, some companies don't pay that well. We won't go into them, but, you know, it is good, and it is. Now, I can't complain. I really can't complain, and I have half the year off. I mean, what other job?
Yeah, so true.
Can you say that you have 6 months a year off?
So true.
I'm lucky. I work time for time. But, you know, some people don't work time for time, so they can't say that. But it's it's just incredible. There's so many opportunities out there.
And for anybody who is listening and wants to follow your journey, where can they follow you? And what's your handles?
So I'm at Becca Taylor, Becca_Taylor25 on Instagram and on TikTok. So it's very easy. Just don't go for a fake account because there's a lot of those.
Oh God, yeah. That's a big problem.
Relentless.
Just the other day, I got an email from some random guy in America who sent me a video of Rebecca talking, and I was like, "Why are you sending this guy videos?" Turns out it was an AI video.
And the voice that was coming out of me was American.
Yeah, it was. It was
like Canadian.
It was very scary.
Like,
but you have become one of those people that the scammers are using. I just hope no one's taking any money.
You know when like the sound doesn't match. You know when sometimes your TV kind of goes off and the sound doesn't match the mouth.
Yeah.
It was like that. Like,
it was
so
like that. It was like that.
I don't know who was believing that.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it's honestly the fake accounts are a whole nother issue. It's a problem.
Yeah, I bet.
It's actually an issue. Like I think I get sent about 5 a day.
Yeah.
Like, how do I report all of them?
There's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can do about it.
I report them. What more can I do?
Yeah.
If you're that silly to believe it, I mean, sorry, but it's so fake.
But fingers crossed they don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
But thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Hopefully we can do some more fun stuff.
Yeah, we will. Sure.
Yeah. Thank you.